Social media, see what it's doing. See what it's doing.
Keeley, how you been though?
Living the dream. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm surviving. A little bit more than surviving, but I'm good.
Surviving and thriving?
Thriving is a strong word right now. I think thriving is a strong word for everyone at the moment, isn't it? Do you say so?
Well,
thriving will make the assumption that you're kind of going beyond what you're expecting to achieve, or am I right?
Well, you're always so like on the language thing.
Yeah.
For me, it might be about, for me, it's always about adversity. And actually, what can you do?
That's true.
When, all your options are closed down. Sometimes if you just, I guess that's a philosophy I have for life. That even in adversity, what can I do? I think I've kind of geared and engineered my mind that way. So I find a way. So what might not be societally like, oh, wow, she's thriving. It might not look like it because people look at, certain things as symbolic of success. Say, for example, the car I drive or whatever. However, for me, in adversity, I still thrive. I think that's really important for me.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, because it gives me a sense of power. Otherwise, powerlessness sets in, and that is not great for
That's
your greatness.
True. It definitely comes down to an interpretation thing then, because to me the assumption is thriving is like you're achieving above and beyond, but then I do guess thriving is also being able to like survive and maneuver within the times that you're kind of like presented with. So, then I guess in that sense, if that's the interpretation that we're going with, then I'm thriving. I'm good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
in some way, in sense of the powerlessness that is going on right now, the power that is over us. Even if that is symbolic of you actually doing it, getting your sign done, it might have been something on your to-do list.
Oh yeah, definitely was.
You see, and now you've got the space. In some sense, as we reorder our homes, clear stuff out, can be positive. It can be productive. It might be small, but I'm a fan of starting small.
Yeah,
massive fan of that. Massive fan of that.
But what's changed though since we last spoke? Because it's been about a year now. And I remember the world was completely different since we last spoke. Like a lot of the things that happened, a lot of things that's occurred wasn't stuff that we kind of like predicted or was prepared for.
No.
So what's changed for you?
Well, I guess we were free then.
Yeah.
When we were free.
Yeah. ...
So obviously lockdown has come and
with the Rona.
Wow, yeah, and hit in a way that has been, well, I guess revolutionary for so many of us in terms of adapting to new normals. And I think for myself, so my business has changed kind of exponentially.
Yeah.
I did have a residual income, which is a very helpful way to earn a living when you don't always have to exchange your labor for for time. So that's hit hard. And I think, like I was talking about, what that space has created, so it's meant that I wrote a course called Pain into Purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a 4-week online course. And basically, I had the time, because of lockdown, to synthesize all the insights about humanity that I'm exposed to through seeing people on a one-to-one. And out of that came Pain into Purpose, which has the 5 life principles.
What's the premise behind that though, Pain into Purpose?
That adversity and pain is inevitable in life. And what you do about it is fundamental to the quality of your life. Yeah. Because, the zeitgeist of our time is, YOLO, positive psychology, affirmations, let me do some yoga and meditation. No, the reality is some of us have had incredible adversity. Some of us have been traumatized, and pain is a part of life. Constantly trying to positively reframe that has its place, but actually it can be very detrimental to people. So I see a lot of people coming through kind of like after they've done all the self-help reading, coaching and so on, which has its place. If you think about where you are, where you want to be, that's fine, goal setting. However, if you perpetually sabotage yourself, there's something going on in your unconscious.
Yeah.
And that's what I help people with in the Pain to Purpose course. So I don't need to know about people's in-depth life stories, because let's face it, a lot of people are adverse to therapy. But I can teach you the principles about why I believe that you're sad, depressed, stuck, and what you need to do about it.
Yeah.
It's just giving you the answers, the why and this is what you need to do about it.
I was reading something up around depression recently, and I came across the concept of like complexities, and the author of this piece was talking about that nowadays, especially in the 21st century, it seems like a lot of people are depressed, and it kind of coincides with the whole idea that we're in a world now where there's so much complexity. And it causes a lot more confusion than we necessarily can deal with as on a human capacity level. So his idea was that majority of the issues that we're facing nowadays aren't necessarily chemical imbalances, but it's just the difficulties in dealing with the world's complexities.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a different take to it than what I'd previously read.
Yeah, well, I guess the beauty of that is my mind straight away went to Starbucks. I think when you said that, because I thought about what it's like to go and order a coffee, the complexity of choice.
Yeah,
you see.
Yeah,
and that's a beautiful example of the tyranny of choice, because people are perpetually deciding all the time, with the instant apps, instant this, that it can be overwhelming. Whereas, I always think of it like being on a plane. There isn't a menu. Well, I don't fly first class yet. Not yet. You know what I'm saying? You either get the veg meal or the chicken and fish. Job done.
And that's it.
You know what I'm saying? There ain't no long menu. You're not sitting there like, oh, what shall I have? What shall I have? It's like that, sister. And I think there's a real benefit for humans, which goes against what, in terms of how we've been conditioned. But I think there is definitely an alternative view of common mental health problems that needs to be spoken about and talked about, because, chemical imbalances is often related to the medical model of depression, and really excludes society, politics, social economic status as well. So there is an alternative view which the mainstream are not giving voice to as such. They keep pushing the same, the same rhetoric, which, so it means people like myself, maybe even the article you read, we kind of deemed as being like alternative thinkers, which is good, but it also comes with its own challenges.
Yeah. What's the most common like mental health issues that people are like sort of like expressing to you nowadays? What are people suffering with?
Well, I think the challenge is a lot of people are telling me that they're anxious.
Yeah.
So people are becoming more versed in that language, but I often find they don't necessarily know what it means.
Yeah.
For example, I can ask somebody, when are the times that you're anxious? Oh yeah, well when this person calls, so okay, well, so let's look into that situation. That's important for you to understand what goes on within yourself. The reality is, I believe, anxiety is being pushed as a common mental health problem. What I find is anxiety often can come from trauma. So when people haven't dealt with the root cause of trauma, you're going to be up here primed with anxiety, like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. But, it takes time to delve, to build the trust, rapport. Some people have forgotten adverse memories.
Yeah.
And so often at a core is trauma that hasn't been dealt with, which then makes sense in terms of, okay, so that's why you may feel anxious in these situations.
But why so by simple definition, what is anxiety? So to me, for instance, anxiety is something I feel is like, so as you said, someone who's might be contacted by an individual and then they start feeling a certain type of way. So historically, there's one particular person who I've been through a traumatic instance with, or a situation. Now, even though I'm really cool with that person, whenever I see that person's number come up on my phone, I'm always like, it's like I'm always shaking. I'm like, I'm not scared of the individual, but I replay the experiences and the emotions that I've been through with that person. You see what I mean? And then it has a continuous effect on our relationship.
Well, so the challenge you have is you've got a body-based memory, or potentially a trauma that is body-based. So cognitively in your mind, you believe that you've come to a conclusion about it. That's the limitations of the mind. Your body is being triggered when that person interacts with you. So we would have to work on the body, what goes on for you, because something's happening, you see.
Yeah.
That's where you get that.
Yeah.
The body's the truth teller. So I'd be curious about your bodily reactions more so. And I think more so as I develop, I'm less, I want to use the word seduced by people's narratives about their experience. I really am more tuned into the body and what the body is saying, because I do believe that, you know, the body to be a truth teller.
Yeah.
So that would be what I'd be curious about. And it's usually some sort of a memory that's lodged, and we endeavour through talking or however to try to access some of that.
Yeah. And what's the healing process like, though? What does that look like?
Well, it has to be unique to yourself. It depends.
So each individual. So there's no like blanket way of dealing with people's anxieties as a whole?
No, not at all. So, well, like I said, anxiety I often find to be trauma, or anxiety I often find is someone's ego.
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't want to block him, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but every time he calls you, makes you anxious. So why don't you block him?
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to block him because you don't want the relationship to done.
Or
so then you need to be anxious.
Yeah, but then also there's also the assumption that you feel like the situation is dealt with, it's done and dusted, but then maybe it's not, because you're still going through that experience or that bodily change whenever you do come in contact with that person.
Yeah. So the challenge is you need to get into the body. You see, which circumnavigates the mind, which takes us into creativity. So it would have to be dependent. So like, there's a thing for children called the worry bear, which, you know, children are encouraged to write whatever their worry is and zip it up and put it in the bear. Some of that I use with adults, you know. Okay. So, you know, so it's unique to that person. Some people I might use the dolls. So I have the Russian dolls. Some people it might be EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprogramming, which is where you kind of isolate. It's really dependent upon the person. But, you know, fight or flight, if someone's been traumatized, you also have to be really mindful of that. And polyvagal theory is really good at looking at what happens when someone shuts down. So that's when when they shut down, that means they're in the room, but they've left. You know, and that, it's just a narrative that's not spoken about, which might be understandable kind of, you know, for the everyday person. So what I find is people often come with those terms like, oh, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, you know, do you do CBT? Because that's what, you know, the mainstream has really pushed.
CBT as in the drug?
CBT, oh no,
CBT.
CBD.
Oh, sorry, CBD, I'm good.
Easy now, easy now, back in the game, bro. Back in the game, back in the game.
I thought you were trying to promote the herbal healing right now.
No, bro, I wasn't going down that creative route. You know, but you know, CBT would be cognitive behavioural therapy.
Oh, yes.
Which is often, you know, encouraged by the NHS as such, you know, for individuals. So people are often primed with that. And, you know, it's for me to get to understand, you know, where they are. And you know, obviously, often sometimes uncomfortable memories can be evoked. And my ambition is always to help people to make sense of it. So maybe the reason you act like this in the here and now is this is what happened in the there and then, the past, and then how we can begin to integrate that. This can often involve inner child work. It's because our 7-year-old wounded self still governs our show at 35, 38, whatever it is. And so it's about how do we mend that relationship, you know. So, you know, I ain't honing in on you, but for example, whatever that body-based response might be having, I'd be curious whether that body-based response you have to your friend might be also linked to other experiences. So what would that remind you of? So I think it's one of the things where, you know, people might not always get that type of inquiry through their GP. You know, but we are hopeful.
Yeah,
you know, we are hopeful.
One thing that I'm quite curious about is that now the talk about mental health is everywhere, like everywhere you turn. Is it really a case that so many people are going through issues, or is the conversation out there so broadly now that people are attaching themselves or minor stuff that they're going through with those more serious issues?
I mean, how deep do we want to go around here?
I mean, as deep as possible.
Well, the reality is, if you want to keep everybody thinking that they're depressed, and it takes the eye off the bigger prize, you know, about capitalism, access to opportunity, you know, social mobility, which is a massive problem. But if you tell people that they're depressed, say we take, for example, imposter syndrome, some argue that imposter syndrome is actually about, you feeling inadequate because you don't know how to navigate middle class circles.
Yeah.
But psychologically, we're told that we have an imposter syndrome and that the problem is ours, and therefore one should work on themselves in order to be able to be comfortable in those circles, which is convenient because it then makes the individual feel inadequate about their so-called shortcomings. When actually the reality is you're going into circles where you're not accustomed and often where you're not welcome because you don't understand middle class nuanced, you see. So that's about class. So class, access to opportunity, if you push a mental health agenda, then everybody individualizes it.
Yeah.
Something wrong with me.
The self-diagnosis and so.
Yeah, where everybody is. They've already come into me telling me what they've got, and I think I've got this. Well, that's very interesting. But the challenge is as an experienced psychotherapist, I'm having people tell me the same thing again and again and again, and I'm seeing people individually. So, which is why I created Pain into Purpose, because I'm like, this is not individual. This is not individual.
Yeah.
It's almost, I find myself saying the same things again and again and again, which means it's not individual, which is why I can create a course really quickly, because I see the principles that are at interplay that keep people, firstly, thinking that something's wrong with them, when actually we live in an environment where you are stifled. You know, your access to opportunities are limited. You can work really hard. Look at it now. Like, people can work really hard, but can you afford to move out?
Yeah.
Can you afford a home?
Yeah.
Or do you just have enough money to get yourself in debt? I think, you know, you earn enough to get you in debt. Does that make sense? Like, so you can get credit, and that's all you do. You just constantly like,
not enough to ever clear that credit. So
there you go. Circle, huh? I think one of the reasons why there is an epidemic in terms of mental health problems is because of inauthenticity. People don't know who they are. And they're striving for what society rams down their throat as symbolic of success. And they get there. And they're like, is this it?
Yeah. Even to the point where we're like forcing each other into. I don't know if how heavy you're on the cultural parts of social media and music and stuff, but there was recently this ridiculous like argument about like Birkin bags. I don't know if you came across that debate. Birkin bags. So these are like ridiculous. I don't know. They're like, I don't know if they're snake skin or crocodile skin or whatever, but some of the bags are worth like 300 grand. It ranges from like 50 grand, 20 grand to like 300 grand plus. And there was a massive celebrity debate. So you had these two celebrities. I don't know who it was, Cardi B and another artist. They were just debating about their boyfriends buying them Birkin bags. So then that debate trickled down from these celebrities who are like multimillionaires to your local Bob and Joanne or whatever arguing on the streets on social media about Birkin bags. So people are having this debate that if your man can't buy you a Birkin bag, is he really your man? You know what I mean? And then you had these rappers that were saying, look, they're looking for girls to buy Birkin bags for. I'm just talking about like social pressures here, like people trying to force themselves to live a lifestyle that's way beyond their means, way beyond their means, but in order to like impress a new supposed societal norm. You see what I mean? And the pressures became real. It starts off as a joke where people are like on their socials being like, oh, your man can't afford to buy you a Birkin bag, to the point where people start living outside of their means. People start picking up credit cards just to be able to buy this supposed like status symbol for their partners.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, if we take the fact that the argument has been inspired by someone like Cardi B, it would raise the question, would one look to her as a representative of a healthy, wholesome, intimate relationship? Well, in the first instance, if her argument has now trickled down to the average Bob, you know, this is a massive issue.
But that's the dangers of like influence and social influence in particular, because like the average person who has like any sense would see that, okay, this is not an argument I should get myself involved in. This is not a debate that should be seen as serious and a be-all end-all. But these people have mass influence. They've got like hundreds of millions of followers. And there's impressionable young people there with like frontal cortexes that haven't even been developed halfway through yet. So they're going to take this as a serious point of discussion and a serious point of thought and a place of ideas and a way of living life.
Yeah, but then the reality is, you know, we talk about, you know, conditioning. Then we look at mental health problems, we look at the media, and as we know, if these people are put up, and then you can get yourself involved in such debates, what happens to your own authenticity?
Yeah.
As you go down the rabbit hole involving and having debates about a branded bag, yet what about your own self? What about your own journey? All distraction to take your eye off the prize, and then you sit there wondering why you feel inadequate about your size B breasts. Yeah, so now you want to go and get a boob job done and potentially get your bum done because you now feel inadequate because you now idolize these people. All distraction.
Yeah.
All distraction from yourself and your journey and what you can do to become your greatest self, which is one of the reasons why people are depressed.
Yeah. But how do you avoid that though? Because it's fair enough and easy to say, okay, I'm going to stop following these individuals. I'm going to stop engaging in these debates. I'm going to stop like being distracted by these. But how do you actively...
People need crisis. There's the beauty of working in jail. You see people in crisis. You see people at rock bottom, and what matters and what doesn't. You soon reorder and prioritize what matters. The challenge is people aren't uncomfortable enough.
Yeah.
They need the discomfort. You know, we can all have a pebble in the shoe. Sometimes it goes around in a little crevice of the shoe. You just carry on walking. But when it's really bucking on your bunion, then you got to take the shoe off.
Yeah.
Knock that out. Hold on. I'm just going to take this out. They're not uncomfortable enough.
Yeah.
It has to hurt enough. You have to get to that place.
But if the world or society doesn't put you into that place, like how do you recreate that experience that will put you in an uncomfortable place so that you can...
Well, society won't, because society wants to distract you.
Yeah.
So you remain distracted. You're know more about Cardi B than you do yourself. You see, so as long as you take the bait, that's fine. You'll be uncomfortable enough, and then you just keep working and be kind of, like kind of settle for mediocrity.
Yeah.
But something would have to be uncomfortable enough, painful enough, for you to begin that like self-inquiry. If you do, not everybody's gonna wake up, you know.
Yeah.
Not everybody will, I'm afraid. And if you look at media, I mean, for example, throughout, this lockdown, we know that alternative thinkers have also been taken down.
Yeah.
So you're getting a homogenous viewpoint, really and truly, in the media.
And that's been proven because big tech got taken to court by the Senate in the States regarding this. Big tech. So Jack Dorsey, Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg, and what's his name? The dude from Google. The Senate had them in a call meeting for 6 hours. I watched about 3.5 hours of it.
Wow.
They were talking about like censorship and controlled ideology, and these guys were proven to be controlling the ideologies that we now kind of all subscribe to. So they censor certain things whilst allowing certain things to flourish within their social media platforms. And these are the most free, most powerful people or companies in the world, without a doubt, when it comes to information. They're more powerful than countries and governments. So the US Senate had them in there, obviously, because Trump was trying to have his way with them before he left office. But nonetheless, they got exposed for what they are and what they do. Because Jack Dorsey was asked a question. So Jack Dorsey is the CEO of Twitter. He was asked if he believes that his platform can control an election in regards to like what people think and what makes people want to vote for the individuals to vote for. And his answer was no. And they were like, hold on 1 minute. Then they brought out all of this evidence in regards to things that they've suppressed. So the issue with Biden's son and his laptop, for instance. There was a whole bunch of stuff with him doing dodgy deals with Ukraine and a whole bunch of stuff. He was smoking crack on there, like prostitution. There's a whole bunch of stuff that was on his laptop. And New York Times released a massive article regarding this, and they put it out on Twitter, and Twitter blocked it from the world seeing it. This was just coming up to the election. And there was a reason behind it, because obviously their political ideology, it would have gone against that had that article come out just before the election. So they were asked why they censored it when they hadn't censored the Ayatollah and loads of other people saying radical stuff. Because Jack Dorsey's excuse was that, okay, we censor stuff from certain world leaders because of the influence and reach that they have, but they hadn't censored a whole bunch of like racist, anti-Semitic stuff. But when it came to this particular thing, they censored it. And he tried to make up some excuse for it, but they didn't buy it. And all of them got roasted one by one in regards to their ideologies. And he got found that, I don't know if you've seen The Social Dilemma, but it got found out that basically what was expressed in The Social Dilemma in regards to how social media controls our way of thinking is all true.
Yes.
So sometimes you might be out there thinking that I believe this because I believe it. No, you believe it because the algorithm has noticed the pattern in things that you watch, and they're constantly pushing those ideas. So you're never ever going to see the other side of the argument, simply because your voodoo doll that they have created on the back end hasn't been attached to these other ideologies.
Yeah.
So social media is very dangerous, and sometimes when you're on social media and you're playing the game, or especially if you're interested in politics and ideas, you should be careful at what you're being fed and what's being recommended to you, because it's heavily like structured, especially for your mindset, to create a biased echo chamber.
And I think even from Amazon years ago, I remember thinking, when my kids ask me what I want for my birthday, I'm like, you need to ask Amazon, because Amazon is making some serious recommendations. It knows what I like before I like it. I want to buy one book, it's bundling them up.
I'm just going to adjust the mic,
no worries.
It seems to be falling off.
It bundles up the books and tells me I only wanted to spend like £15 on one book. It's bundling it all off. Next thing, I'm adding to basket a £50 bundle of 3 books. You see, so, it's just one way that's been happening for a while. It's coming out now. And so, I think we're in serious times.
Yeah.
I think it's an illusion of free speech.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's definitely illusions.
And free will. Free will is like, so one thing I got from this court case was that free will is a major, major illusion. Like the idea of free will. So like,
yeah, but the challenge is you have to let people think that they are making a choice.
Yes, that's the thing.
See, that's the catch.
Yeah. So you think, I like this video, I like these products, but no, you've been fed it. Like the signals have been put out there.
Yeah.
I had an interesting conversation with one of my friends, and I thought I wanted to get your idea on it. And I think you mentioned early on about social mobility, and that's why I clicked. So when I first graduated from university, me and a friend of mine, we went to this recruitment day. It was by this massive organization called Pareto Law. So they were meant to be like high-end recruiters for graduates. And we turned up to this place, this room. There was about 50 people in there. We were the only 2 black people in there. And immediately, as soon as you stepped in there, you know how we felt. Do you know what I mean? That whole like inadequate feeling, like, oh my gosh, like we're about to get ripped apart. There's no way we'll be able to survive in this pool. So we stepped up there, and then you have to stand up in front of everyone and say your name, what you just graduated in, what you're looking to do in the future. And black people, our lips are trembling as we're talking in front of this group of like 50 super posh white kids and stuff.
I trust you didn't go to private school.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I went to like a really bad
because you'd do fine at public speaking if you would have gone to private school.
Yeah, I mean, in the school that I went to, it wasn't a great school at all. It was a horrible school. I cannot deny that fact whatsoever. But we struggled when it came to a lot of the stuff, a lot of the group-based work. Yeah. But a lot of the interpersonal, direct work, we done all right. We thought we were fairly confident, because from the area that we come from, like, we were the confident guys. We were the
brainy ones.
But in that environment, it was like,
you're the dumb kids.
We're the dumb kids. Like, we're definitely from the hood now. We're from the hood, and we feel we're from the hood. So we were discussing this just about 2 days ago, and we're like, you know what? We were so scared in that environment. We really felt like we didn't belong, as if like we weren't worthy enough of competing within that environment. And we're trying to figure out what made us feel so inadequate as soon as we stepped in.
Well, there you go. So you could, what traditional psychology would tell you, you've got imposter syndrome. You see, so you internalize it as an inadequacy of the self, and then you go about trying to restore that, rather than looking externally about it being about class, privilege, nuance, and you not knowing how to navigate that. And that's the challenge with my field. That's a challenge for me as a therapist, which is, I don't want to be a part of a profession that makes people internalize societal inadequacies and put it on themselves. I want to be able to help people to have a balance. Like, this is what it's like. It's like I was in Phoenix and I was going to buy a bar jacket. And I thought to myself, what does it symbolize to me? Because I don't go hunting. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? I don't fox hunt. I don't even go on walks and stuff yet. I'm doing it a bit, right, because of lockdown, but it ain't my natural thing. And I thought, is it symbolic of middle classness? Is it symbolic of my transcendence out of the hood? And I thought, it is symbolic. So I didn't buy it. I just chose to not buy it, because that, for me, it's important for me to think about, the middle class cultures define what's tasteful and what is not tasteful. You see, so certain items will be frowned upon. And so I'm a bit like, you know what, I want to embrace all of me, my working class roots, and obviously I'm a professional now, but I want to embrace all of that. And I'm not just going to have all these tags and labels that symbolize societal success. Key, I can see you moving up now. Like, you know what? No, I'm going to kind of mix and mingle, and I'm going to decide.
Yeah.
I'm going to decide.
But how do you instill that confidence in like a child, for instance, or like a younger individual? That, so let's say, for instance, I was to have children and we grew up in the area that I grew up in. How, if I want to instill that confidence in them to make them not feel inadequate or have that like imposter syndrome when they enter into these type of environments, because even culturally for us, yeah, we've like, I'm saying us as if we're all like a monolith, but even culturally, for instance, if I go to a restaurant with my boys now and then I order sparkly water, they'll be like, oh, what, Frank, you moved up now, yeah, you're up. And all of a sudden, the association with me ordering like sparkly water is like me saying I'm better than everyone else around.
Is there truth in it though?
No, because I like it.
Yeah, but is there a nugget
to an element?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I always have coffee after my meal, and I went out with some friends from the ends, and they were like, "Oh, do you always have to have coffee after?"
Yeah, you've changed.
I know, like, it's what I do, isn't it? It's what I do. They never had one. I don't know. That's what I do. But there is something in it, and it is a nuance, and that's the beauty of like cracking that open and thinking about it and pondering. What does that symbolize? What does it symbolize to them? What does it symbolize to me when someone points that out? I just find it forever, it's fascinating.
Yeah. But social mobility is strange then, because then the idea to me doesn't seem plausible, because regardless of whether, so when I was at university, we had this debate that the moment you receive a degree, you're no longer working class. That there was a debate, and even the lecture concluded that, okay, if you've got a degree now, technically you're not working class, so you can't keep going on about this idea of, oh, I'm a working class lad now because you got a degree, and that's not supposed to be a working class thing. But you don't feel like
you're still living in your mum's council flat in their little one bedroom.
That's the thing. So it's like, at what point does this social mobility ideal become a tangible, plausible idea? Because what salary bracket do I need to be to say, oh, I officially got my certificate now? Is even worthwhile even trying to consider it? Because it doesn't make sense, and it's very difficult to feel that tangible movement. You see what I mean? Unless you completely ostracize yourself and then start behaving in a way that's unnatural to yourself and forcefully start talking in a way that's not necessarily akin to your roots.
Yeah.
So it's very strange.
When you still live in your mum's spare bedroom,
yeah.
it's a bit incongruent, and I think it's difficult. I think it's lots of little things, but you can't, not take race into it, because I don't think Britain has a middle class black population.
Yeah.
You see, so we're kind of lumped as being, like, as black. It's not considered that within the black community there are different classes at all.
Yeah.
So we're kind of all lumped as all being hood. I know my kids who've been brought up in a middle class area have really struggled when they've gone to colleges that have a mix of people from different areas because they're not black enough.
Yeah.
So it's a massive one, and it's not about having a degree, because the reality is, you're going to have more in common with working class people whether you have a degree than high salary, massive salary earners. People on six figures. You're going to have more in common with those people there.
Yeah.
So it's all shifted. You've got doctors who can't afford to, buy their own homes or having to move further and further out. So what does that suggest? Yeah. If having a house is symbolic of, status and moving up. Like yesterday, I don't buy any respect. I wanted to read something yesterday, so I thought I'll buy National Geographic. £7, bruv. £7, bruv.
I just go on Google.
I was like, raw.
Yeah.
And I just thought, let me have a flick through some, and it was all virus and everything, which is not good for me because I don't need to be reading all about that. But it was like £7, and I paid for it. Because Shane wouldn't let me put it back at the till. There we go. I had to hold it up. I had to hold it up. But it is, it's a reality. Just as where you go on holiday, how you have your holidays, what all of that begins to feed in. And Mobility, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, I find
sure.
social mobility. I just find it a weird. I don't know what to call it. I find a very strange structure, and I don't necessarily think the structure is I don't think it's possible in its simplest form to shift, as they say. And then who sets the confines of the rules as well? Who says at what level do you move on to the next stage? You see what I mean? It's like who's setting the rules to the game. Yeah. And whoever's controlling the narrative or whoever's controlling the rules of the game will ultimately define what it is, and it's set. So really and truly, the back of whoever's set the rules mind, you can never really come onto my level because you weren't born like me. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I can't then just come and then shift and come onto your level and be like, yo, we're on the same level socially and class-wise. It's a very strange concept.
Yeah, well, it's like cultural appropriation. It's a bit like when I was buying the bar jacket, because we often hear about cultural appropriation for white folk who are mimicking black culture. But I thought about, what about on the flip though? When I buy my bar jacket, is that what I'm trying to do? Yeah. Appropriate with the power dominant group to be more like them. But I know I'll drop my T's anyway and expose my grassrootsness. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So what is that about? What do these things symbolize? That I'm better? That I've moved on? Or as people say, oh, Key, I'm still surprised you come around here, you know? I'm still surprised you hang out. I always find that a little bit.
Yeah, so where should I hang around? What,
yeah.
Should I have new friends now just because?
I think it's like, well, I mean, you know, some relationships get strained. Let's be honest. Like, if you're about to go and nick something at M&S, you know what I'm saying, bro? Like, it's like, really, like it's good, isn't it? Like, wow, buy it for you, sis. Like, it's good. It's good. So, yeah, I think it's tricky. I think you have to find a place because we're constantly bombarded with messages about appropriateness. It's all subtle. Yeah. And that's why I paused before buying the jacket. I just paused and I thought, nah. I don't need to. I'm not going to. Because it felt, I made conscious something that's very unconscious and subtle. And that is about the brands we buy. And there's those two ways about it. It is about the brands we buy. Yeah. Brands, I think, obviously brands do come into it as well. Most do. Yeah, symbolic signs of success, you know. I know many a man who wouldn't wear Primark. But enough man are in jail because you don't want to do Primark, innit? Yeah. You want to go Bicester Village, innit? Yeah, that's cool, bro.
Nick whatever it is that you can nick from the...
But you end up doing time because you don't want to live within your means. Yeah. So it's tricky.
It definitely is.
And you know why it's tricky? Which links back to mental health problems. Because self-acceptance is I think revolutionary. It's counterculture. To accept yourself. Yeah. People don't accept themselves. Yeah. That's why my children want MAC makeup. What do you want for Christmas? MAC makeup. What do you mean MAC makeup? I remember this when I was like in their teens, like late teens, like, oh, we want MAC makeup. So I took them to the... But why is there a line outside the shop? This isn't even COVID times. They want to contour. They want long lash. Yeah. Long lash. Yeah. And so I'm like, wow, that's a significant... I was happy with a little lip balm from Body Shop. It's changed significantly. So what is that about? Never feeling adequate. You're always feeling inadequate. So you need the next thing. I mean, look what they did to women's eyebrows. Yeah. Bruv, what was wrong with our eyebrows? All right, sister, I know if you got a monobrow, you got to sort yourself out, right? Yeah. Sort it out, you know what I'm saying? None of that. But come on, man. These little Asian women appeared in all forms of shopping centres just there, like, doing the thing on the eyebrow. I'm like, geez, when did the eyebrow thing become a thing? Because we were conditioned to feel inadequate about our natural eyebrows. And then they brought out a solution for it. And then they brought out eyebrow, what my daughter bought, eyebrow pen, eyebrow brush.
Just to shave off the thing and then draw it on now.
Draw them on. And look, you know it was a fiasco when people was drawing on all these... big old, it got out of hand. Yeah. It got out of hand.
Yeah. It's strange because there's also major power in like self-acceptance and like appreciating yourself.
Because you become ostracized.
Yeah, that's the issue as well. Yeah.
And you talk about how do we teach children that? When children want to be a part of their group. You don't want to be the kid that gets bullied. It's all good now, us being adults, being like, well, just be yourself. No, it ain't, because you remember when you was that kid at school. Yeah. You wanted to fit in. If everyone was wearing wallabies, you was wearing wallabies, kickers. You got kickers.
You definitely, yeah.
You don't want to be the kid with Dunlop or Gola.
Yeah. Or if you're wearing fake kickers, then it's a wrap for you.
Brethren, do you know what I'm saying? Your mum gone shoe zone.
Yeah. Or Hackney Market, that was a place for me.
Oh.
Hackney Market back in the day. Yeah.
Oh. So it's very difficult for kids because they want to fit in. That's what their psychology is about. So individualism for children is very tricky.
Yeah.
Teenagers, very tricky when all you want to do is assimilate into the group. Probably one of the reasons why I work with adults. Because the challenge is you start to walk to the drum of your own beat. Yeah. And that's when, and I can see it happening in myself. People, are you free or are you the madman? I can go to the gym, put my sunglasses on, my headphones on, I can rave in there with my headphones, but I'm not in sync with everybody else who doesn't quite move to their music. They kind of hold it down, but I'll push 2 finger in the air. That was a big tune. You know what I'm saying? I'm having a virtual rave in here.
Yeah.
I got to get my sweat on.
Yeah.
But I'm out of sync with what everybody else is doing.
That's very true. Yeah.
You see? So now it should be off key. It should be weird, isn't it? It should work.
So we kind of put ourselves in line then, don't we?
Well, it gives me 2 things. It either means the madman and the individual who's authentic is free. Or are they actually more similar? Is the madman actually authentic? He's being authentic, which is going against the grain of what society is normal. So he becomes just as myself, who's now not conforming to societal norms by, gently having an exercise. Now I look like a weird person. Can I cope with that? Can I internally validate myself? See, the issue is people don't internally validate themselves. They're validating themselves according to external sources. Yeah. And the more a human does that, is the more they're susceptible to common mental health problems.
Wow. That's actually put me in a place where I'm now thinking back to times when I've been at the gym and I've seen the guy who I'm thinking is nuts dancing and going crazy. I'm looking at him thinking, yo, what's wrong with him? When really and truly he's in his zone.
The question is, could you be that authentic?
That's the truth. Now I'm kind of questioning myself now that you proposed that idea.
There you go.
Yeah.
Could you be listening to some? Because brethren, I'm listening to some big old dancehall 90s tunes, brethren.
Yeah.
I'ma feel some tune. Shabba. Ting-a-ling-a-ling. School bell ring. Pull up that. I'll even say pull up that. I don't scream it though, because that's a bit too out of sync.
Yeah, then they're going to be thinking like, you might lose your membership then.
Get this one out. Ban that one. However, he is being authentic. He hears the music, he enjoys it, and his body corresponds in truth. His internal world and his external world match up. Most people, their internal world and their external world are separate. Yeah. How they feel inside and what they do externally are 2 worlds apart.
That's definitely me.
That's inauthenticity.
Yeah.
And the more inauthentic you are, is the more you are separate from your true authentic self. That's what I help people to do, is how can you begin so you're more in alignment. Yeah. Now there's games we have to play sometimes. You can't always be, you can't go to work and put your jollof and fish in the microwave and sink out the place. You know what I'm saying? Certain thing we go hold it down. You know what I'm saying? We hold it down, put on a little Magic FM. You know what I'm saying? Put on the Magic. When they gone out the room, we put on the little BFM and everything like that. We want the little dancehall music. I'm a dancehall fan. Yeah. So some things we socially conform, but generally we want to be coming from a place where how we feel and how we behave are in alignment.
Yeah. But how about if you're selective to that though? So for instance, like people that I feel comfortable around, sometimes you can be that genuine self, but you find a majority of people you're not, simply because you're conforming to that ideal. So it's like you're very selective about your personality traits.
So it would make me curious about what it is when you're in certain circles where you're inauthentic. Possibly
for like it could be for business beneficial purposes, or an image that you're trying to preserve within a circle that I don't know you're doing some level of work with that's outside of your friendship circle or your family boundaries.
Well, if I'm thinking about I'm just going to think about the black male. And if you think about the black male,
even our tone of talking, it switches.
But some of that we call code switching, right?
Yeah,
which is essential. Yeah, which is essential to navigate the.
It's transactional as well.
If we think about the black male, if I think about it from your perspective per se, then we also know you have to contend with the nuance of microaggressions, stereotypes. You have to hold all of that in mind.
Yeah.
A gentleman and I we went out for the day, and on the way back we was in the country and we stopped for a Sunday lunch at Country Pub, and he's a photographer. So what he did is, when we was going into the pub, he just put the camera around his neck, because he says, I know I'll be less threatening with the camera on.
I do stuff like that as well. Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
And why is that important for you?
I just feel like my interactions with people is going to be that much more easier in certain environments. If I have a prop, what's it called, a prop, that for instance makes me seem less harmful.
Jesus.
Do you know what I mean? And it is a real thing. Like, and I experience it with my friends. So, for instance, like
the nuance of this stuff is amazing.
We could come back from the gym, and if we, depending on where we're going to eat, for instance, if we're going to eat somewhere local, we'll roll in there as we look. But if we're not, then we might, I don't know, take off the hoodie, for instance, and just wear the t-shirt, because that automatically I become less threatening. And these are things.
So whose psychology are you having to consider when you take off your jacket?
That would be the psychology of someone who maybe not be the same race as me, i.e. a white group of people. We're in a predominantly white area.
Right. So
and we do it naturally. It's not even a thought. It's not even a thought no more. It's we got a hat on, so you're taking off the hat. Whilst if I'm in my own area, I might even turn the hat backwards and push it down and even be more comfortable. But just because I'm in that zone, there's always ways. We always look for ways to kind of tone down our a supposed aggression or an aggressive image. It's just a thing that we do.
And that can be exhausting. Very
exhausting. Yeah. It's mentally draining, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is the double challenge. If I'm talking about authenticity and mental health problems, as authenticity is the key. As a black man, you are saying you have to be conscious of a white person's stereotypes and prejudice against you, so you adapt to accommodate what they are likely to think of you. And we've just pulled out one example. That's a lot.
It is. It definitely is.
And that will happen throughout your day as you navigate the world. And it makes it like, is it no wonder that we are then maybe potentially overrepresented in the mental health statistics? When you have to do psychological, you not only have to be aware of yourself, but you have to be aware of how that person is going to consider you, and you assume that they will come from a place of a bias towards you, and then you have to adapt. So how can you be unapologetically yourself?
The thing is, you can, and because
we've seen this, right? Unapologetically, right?
Yeah. I think as I got older and I became more, but the thing is the sad part is it's taken such a long period of time to become very comfortable, and it's taken a lot of like personal wins for me to feel comfortable within my own skin to now step into places and just be completely myself. But growing up in particularly, that was never there. Do you know what I mean? Because one, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin and to not care about my surroundings. But there was a time where everywhere I go, that would be a thought process. And you can sense everyone thinking the same thing. It's not even... There used to be that one nutter that just didn't care. He was just loud, brash. He was just himself. But the rest of us, majority of us, we're constantly always thinking about our surroundings. We're constantly always thinking about like how other people are perceiving and experiencing us, and particularly non-black people.
Yeah, Frantz Fanon, the French psychiatrist who was from Montserrat, writes beautifully about this. I think he calls it like a double bind that the black person finds himself in, where they have to think about their oppressor and how the oppressor thinks about them, and then they have to make adaptations in order to accommodate the oppressor's biases towards them, and how exhausting that is, and kind of his bewilderment and surprise that he was experiencing that in the motherland where he thought he would get there and just be accepted. It's a massive deal, and it's almost like, so where do we see black men being truly authentic and not adapted? Is it allowed in certain circles? So that leads me to think about grime music, because if you talk about, if we talk about social mobility, they've kicked down the door and made it on, well, let's just say on their terms, and obviously when they get there, it's a challenge, isn't it? It's a massive challenge. you know, and how do you hold that balance of remaining true to your roots, yet, you know, you get, you know, I think I saw Dizzy a couple of months ago doing an advert for a betting.
Oh yeah, it's been doing that for a hot second.
Yeah. And I kind of thought about it. Okay, it's interesting. It's tough, and I can't help but feel that there is an inoculation for people who are born back home from this society. That if you, the longer you can stay at home in an environment where there's more black people around you at different levels of the social scale, you can see, you know, role models around you. It can immunize you when you get to the West, where you have to play a kind of psychological mind game and still remain intact, you know, to be able to navigate, to be able to survive and thrive.
Yeah, that actually explains a lot, because I've got friends who come from really like well-to-do backgrounds in Nigeria that only come here maybe for holidays or to study or whatever, and the way that they interact is very different. They're way more confident. They very much unapologetically themselves, because I come from a high class society of just black people. So now that I'm here, I'm not going to conform. So they come with that backing and that strength and that confidence.
Yeah.
So there was one particular friend who I had recently. She's gone back to Nigeria, but if you're out with her, like, she doesn't see anything around her. She's very loud. She's who she is. She will express herself. She's very authentic, and she's not being like toned down or controlled by her environment or circle.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
but the thing is, it's like, now looking back at it and everything we just discussed now, I can see where that comes from, because she comes from a really like high caliber family and a high class background. So it's like, you've experienced that. So she's immune to
she's immune to it.
To the BS.
She's immune to it, most definitely. And for yourself, you know, you're from the African diaspora. For people from the Caribbean, our history's been very different. You've got levels of broken families, generations of broken families, where you've got, you know, the female as the breadwinner. We've got the kind of arrested development of the black male who's not able to provide and protect his family, which has led on to where we are in the current times. So what happens when he has to navigate those nuances and be mindful of white person's prejudice towards him? Some man ain't gonna play them games.
Yeah.
They're not gonna play them games, which is often why they're on the margins. You know, they're not gonna conform. And sometimes, you know, just working in prisons, I kind of wondered sometimes to myself whether they had a freedom that I didn't have, as someone who had to conform, who had to play the game, who could use my, you know, skin tone, knowing that I know the nuances of white culture because it's in my family. And I can use that to navigate and get into places that maybe my darker skin counterparts can't. So what about that man who doesn't conform? Does he have a freedom that I don't have? He doesn't play the game. A part of me kind of secretly respects that.
It'd be like freedom of mind.
He's not going to play the game. So a large margin of society is eradicated from him because he's just not going to conform.
Yeah.
Part of me kind of likes that.
But
likes that.
Those who conform, do you find that they end up like perpetuating those ideas onto their kids as well? So it's like, it's a continuous cycle.
Well, the challenge is you might become overly sanitized and deculture oneself. You see, so you become, you know, and we all know that, you know, the Sallys are very much waiting for you, you know. So, you know, it may mean that you shift away and reject yourself ultimately. Yeah, I believe, you know. So you begin to reject and distance yourself from your culture because of the challenges that come with it. And like, as I sit and think about it, you could kind of understand why. I don't like it though. Yeah. But you could kind of understand, you know, why, because of what also comes with it, you know? So real is rare. And I understand why it's rare. And I respect people who are authentic. I met somebody yesterday online and he said he's a part of the 2%. I have the greatest respect for the 2%. People who just are authentic. It's challenging. It's very challenging. Yeah. You know?
Since lockdown, in particular, do you find that you're getting clients coming to you with new and specific issues that they didn't come to you with prior? So since the whole COVID situation.
I think one of the areas of my business that's become particularly busy is to do with people who are now using their insurance policies to access therapy. So, you know, depending on who you work for, you might have therapy through BUPA, through EAP services, employee assistance programs. So people are now using that to fund therapy. And I've never been busier with people using like Aviva,
that service,
AXA, you know, to get support. So that's something that I've noticed. What they are bringing are, you know, challenges with relationships and obviously, you know, worry and stress, you know, the lockdown. But what I would say, the definite difference is that people are using their insurance policies. Yeah. You know, and some companies are starting to change their insurance policies. Yeah. Because of the increased use. You know, they're buggers.
So they're like, we don't want to be paying out.
Yeah, we're like, you can get access therapy, but not during COVID.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so you know, obviously, strained relationships, being in a confined space. Yeah. Where relationships, you know. It's one of the reasons why divorces are often up after Christmas, because people have spent lots of time together. Like, Jesus Christ.
That begs to differ. It's like that. So it makes you think, so do people not really know each other prior to getting together? Because
people are busy.
That's the thing, and we're distracted, and I think distraction kind of like, it creates an illusion sometimes, because if you're with someone in a household and you're constantly distracted, you're both working 9 to 5, you're only home at 7 o'clock, only spend 3 hours together, then you're off to bed. Technically, you only know each other for those 3 hours of the day that you spend together,
and also depending on the size of your home.
Yeah, space to maneuver.
Space to maneuver, the limited space. It means you might be sharing the space. You know, if two of you got to work from home, you might have, you know, it just puts a strain. And also, you know, often we take out our frustrations on the people closest to us too. Yeah. So it can become a real kind of melting pot for a raft of, you know, issues that are being, you know, more potent through lockdown. So that's really interesting in terms of, you know, supporting people through that dynamic, as well as, you know, a lot of people like to be in control. And that has gone for so many people. And that whole anxiety around not being in control, I believe, is all ego. You know, ego, edge God out. That's my philosophy. So it's about, you know, how people are struggling with that uncertainty and not knowing. Or people are accessing their employment services to then develop their confidence for looking for new work as well. So people are like, no, I've not had to go for an interview. You know, so that's also another anxiety that people are kind of having about employability. What will I do next? So yeah, or you know, some people don't, you know, might be using that space, but relationships are strained at home. Yeah.
And also loss of jobs is causing a lot of issues as well, because I know loads of people that have lost their jobs or been put on furlough, so they're not earning as much as they used to be. So that causes a strain in the home as well. How are people dealing with these issues, or how can people deal with issues whilst in lockdown? So like in terms of relationship problems, your own personal mental state, whether you're single or whatever, what would your advice be to those out there?
I think one of my advice would be to people, which is a part of my program, which is focus on what you can control. Focus on what you can control. So a few of my clients have been made redundant. I'm going to encourage you, be thinking about, what do you need to do to upskill? Open universities have got a lot of free courses.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of courses since, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Harvard had a lot of free courses as well.
Harvard too,
yeah? Yeah, they were handing out certificates, yeah.
Boom.
I've done a lot of half courses. I never really completed anything, but...
Yeah, well, because when they don't pay for it, you have a different value. You have a different value system, innit? Yeah.
And the strange thing is, like, halfway through the readings, I'm like, okay, I get this point now. Yeah. I don't want to complete it. I don't want to watch another 4 hours of videos and reading, like, non-stop about it, because I get it. Then I move on to the next one, So I've got, like, a whole bunch of half certificates to claim, but I will claim them at some point, and I'll stick them up on the wall, say that I went Harvard and Open University. But...
Harvard from my yard.
Yeah.
Harvard from Essex. Yeah.
What else?
So it's always about what can you do to empower yourself, because you know, when people have power over you, powerlessness and depression go hand in hand. Yeah. And it's always about what can you find to. Because if you lose sight of that, I think it's curtains for people. And I don't know if people will come out psychologically intact as such. Yeah. I don't think everybody will. Because so much of their identity will be taken. If my identity is the stuff I have and the whip I drive and what I portray there, and I no longer have that, I'm not going to want to portray my unhappy self. Yeah. I'll just vanish from that forum. So I think it's very difficult for people. People live on credit. People don't necessarily have, I don't know. I think we're in very difficult times.
Yeah. I tried my best to stay out of like social media. So as you know, like on Instagram, I don't really post much and stuff. And people are always like, oh, but you got a podcast. You're meant to be there 24/7. You're meant to be all over Twitter. And I'm like, yo, I like myself. I like my mental state. Like I've got good set of friends and family like that I negotiate with and I deal with. I like human contact and stuff. And that's one of the reasons I podcast. But it doesn't necessarily mean I should spend the whole of my life on social media.
Yeah.
Like it's not safe space all the time. Do you know what I mean? It can be a great space. It can be a fantastic space, but I can't spend my whole life on there. I've got stuff to do outside of that zone.
Well, there you go. And if you think about for lockdown, one of the other massive issues is online dating. Because people are, we've been conditioned by Disney for so many years. We're of the view that should we find the one, the one,
soulmate,
that one will be complete. So attention then goes again into another distraction tactic, which is finding the one, spending energy communicating with someone, building up relationship, feelings and rapport. And, and then obviously you can't see that person or whatever. So it's all manipulation and it's not healthy. People, I get the sense for me, people don't want to do the inner work, man. You want quick fix solutions, which is, but you'll just have you have a superficially fine life. And if it depends, does that harm you? Does that hurt you? Now, I'm seeing that more and more as I get older. I'm seeing people who, for my age range, and I'm thinking, boy, life really got the best of you. And I'm finding that difficult. I find that surprising. Yeah. But I have to also take credit for the fact that I have invested in myself. I've invested in my well-being. When friends were driving fancy cars, I opted out. I was paying for therapy, taking the bus. You know what I'm saying? It looked like I dropped off. It maybe still does. I've got a 20-year-old RAV4 outside. And I'm good.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's all like reality distortion. And I find that people would rather look at Cardi B and have long-winded debates about that than do this. They want to fall in love. They want to meet the person. And they want to do that. Relationships are hard work.
Yeah.
Being in a relationship with somebody is a lot of work. You have to get to understand them, the dynamics between the two, the two luggage that you lot bring in together. Like how that all works. Finances, ambitions, are you on the same plane? All of that stuff comes into the fore and people don't want to do that kind of work on themselves.
Yeah.
So they'll just be dragged left, right and centre wherever the latest media post or agenda takes them, which I do believe is about distraction.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Distraction is is the word, because I remember when I spoke to Craig Pinkney about like a lot of the issues facing the black community in terms of like youth violence and stuff, and he said one of the vows that he made last year in particular was to not be distracted anymore. Because he realised that over the years he had so many goals, he had so many things that he needed to do, so many accomplishments that he had written down, but he was always distracted by the new and latest thing. It's like, I'm distracted by this event, I need to be at this motive. I'm distracted by this female who I don't necessarily care about, but I want to spend that night with her. I'm distracted by everything that's being thrown at my culture, my society. I'm distracted by social media. I'm distracted by what's trending on Twitter and what's popping off. And he realised that he wasn't actually getting any work done.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, when he analysed himself and reviewed it, he had nothing done. He was just full of distractions.
But the challenge is, we don't want to set ourselves up for martyrdom. I need idle time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
I don't mind some idle time. I need some nonsense time where I'm not, on it, because no one's trying to be a martyr. I need to accept my humanness, so that I have balance in my life.
How do you gauge that though? Like, do you purposely set that time aside and say, okay, this day, or do you just like, do you ensure that you get your core of your work done, but then also have the balance of free time?
I think like yesterday and today, I decide that I'm not going to open my laptop. I'm more in the moment. Like this weekend, I won't open it.
Yeah.
And that for me is really important. So
it's not rigid.
No, I'm not rigid. Yeah. This weekend I've been watching The Vow. Is it The Vow? The Vow.
I don't watch much TV.
neither do I. But I was with my dad sitting there and he watches television. But I found a series. You know, I start watching it and it's like seven episodes. Next thing I know, he's gone out the room. Do you know what I mean? I'm watching by myself. Yeah, because it's about, and it's always psychological. Yeah. So it's about coercive control. Okay. I find coercive control absolutely fascinating. It's one of the areas that I struggle with as a therapist because I'm so pro. You need to take responsibility for your life, and you need to take responsibility for your choices. But coercive control is where you've been manipulated to the point where, which is what happens with social media. You think you're buying the book, but you're not. You've been conditioned. Coercive control really does fascinate me. So it was about that, and I could watch that all day long.
Yeah. But then also that's kind of in line with your work and your passion, so it makes it more enjoyable pastime, I guess.
Which is where if you have purpose and meaning in your life, you don't know where. Which, you know, let's be honest, family find it annoying. Like, when do you ever switch off? Well, I ain't gonna watch EastEnders. I ain't that kind of chick. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, I will end up looking at. Oh, let's watch something. I will go to documentaries.
Yeah, same.
That's what I like.
To documentaries, yeah.
That's what
I'm watching a lot of jail documentaries recently.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm watching a lot of crime stuff. I don't know if I got issues, but I'm watching a lot of crime stuff, a lot of jail stuff.
What kind of crimes?
So I was watching. I watch a lot of the Narcos style, the drug ones.
Okay.
I've watched a lot of serial killer ones as well.
Okay.
And I've been watching a lot of this episode called Jailbirds.
Right.
So, but I find it intriguing because Jailbird is so sick, yeah. So it's about this prison. It's like a 7-tier prison system. There's 7 floors, and I think in the middle you've got the women, and then the majority of the prison is like men. But they found these unique ways of like communicating, and there's relationships in there. There's fights. It's almost like a whole TV series.
Wow.
So what they discovered is that they can communicate to each other via the toilets. These prisoners discovered it. So they empty out the water in the loo, and then they put like the rolls, they empty loo rolls in, and they can talk through each other through the pipes. And everyone's got different knocks. So let's say, for instance, you talk to Devon, who's on the 2nd floor. Your knock for Devon could be like 3 consecutive knocks and a slap. So that means that's you calling Devon right now. So everyone will be like, yo, Devon. Morse code. So they'll be like, yo, Devon, your chick is hollering at you. So then everyone's trying to look for Devon. Devon comes down, hey, yo, babe, what's up? I miss you, baby. And then they're having all these conversations. They're sending each other like they call it fishing. So they rip up their t-shirts and tie them using like what's it called, braiding techniques. And then they attach the messages to them with spoons, and then they fish. So when you put your spoon down, you flush it, and the other person puts they connect, and then they send messages to each other and pictures and all sorts. And it's crazy. It's got all sorts of drama in there.
You know what? Prison is a fascinating place.
It's so
to see
fascinating.
The creativity of the human
spirit. It is out of this world. The creativity.
What's it called? Jailbirds?
It's called Jailbirds. It's amazing. It's the best thing on TV. And there's people cheating on each other, and they've never seen each other though. Bear in mind, it's just pictures. But it's like, oh, I heard you were talking to my man, and there's beef, and I heard you talking to the guy who shot my boyfriend out on the street. There's all sorts of crazy drama, and this thing drew me in here to the point where like I'm like sitting there watching this show as if like I know these people and I'm connected to them.
You're in it.
I'm deep in it. Jailbird's the best thing out there since sliced bread.
Wow.
It's crazy. I'm got hooked on it.
Better than Tiger King?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. I think I like it because it's like they like the ingenuity, the creativity, and the mindset of these people. That's what intrigues me. So I got caught up in the whole like setup. I'm like, how did they discover how to do this? How can they get one message from here to there? How are they creating like serious relationships where they fall in love and people are breaking up with their husbands outside to get married inside the jail? Because they can actually still have marriage ceremonies in there, but they can't kiss, they can't hug. They're going to the courtrooms, and it is deep. It's really deep stuff.
Beautiful.
It's a must watch.
And I do believe it is a beautiful sign of the human spirit.
Yeah.
You know, in captivity, you'll see how, you know, and the thing is, it's in all of us. It's just we're not in adverse conditions for that part of us to be triggered. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah. And it got me as well reminiscent on like the whole like concept of the whole lockdown that we've all been in, because I feel like that whole prison setup and how people are communicating and getting to know each other is almost similar experience that we're having on the outside now in terms of like developing relationships. And it just shows you like how important human contact is, that when we're lost, when we don't have it, there's something deep inside us that yearn for it. There's a high level of importance for it.
Yeah, which is the challenge when we're being told, you know, you can work from home, we'll give you a laptop. You know, there is an actual issue with human contact, and when I think about Help the Aged, who are very great at promoting, old people are lonely.
Yeah.
I think, this isn't just going to be for OAPs at all. This is this is hitting everybody. Even my daughter today was like, why are you always bumping into me? And I was thinking, why are you carrying on like that? And I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe it's contact. Literally physical contact.
It's required.
Yeah, it's essential for the human organism, which what we're told is, you can do this or you can do this and you can work from home. And as I was saying in my meeting this week at work, like, you're not going to buy a bucket of roses and put it at home, are you? By the computer. That's the sort of thing you would have at work, innit? As Christmas comes along, someone buys a tin of roses, you have another, someone eats all the purple, leaves the rubbish ones. You know what I mean? Them kind of interactions are really important for humans. Now we're kind of fed this, you can do
everything from home.
Another issue is constantly showing up with people through lockdown is problems with apps. Binge eating is a problem. The word binge has never been a desirable term, but now you've got the companies who encourage you to binge watch. And then what? Uber Eats, binge eat too. Like, that's not good for humans. It's just not good for humans. The convenience of apps is also inconvenient. ASOS, come on. What have you been buying in lockdown? Because the Amazon man knows our house. We on first name terms. He's like, you good, bro? He's like, the sunflowers died. And he told my dad the other day, I'm missing the sunflowers. That's when they know who you are. So, like, odd behaviours start to show up throughout lockdown as well. I always encourage my clients, like, look at your bank statement. Start to notice the stuff that you're buying or you're not buying. The weird stuff or the Amazon stuff. Client the other day, God bless her, she bought a hot earwax candle. She says, Key, when it came to my yard, she was like, what am I going to do with the
Would you have ever bought this in any other situation?
Imagine you put hot water down your ear and you got a problem. Now you got to go into the corona hospital. Sister, no. Weird times,
Yeah. One more question I'll ask you before I'll let you go today is you released a post recently on your Instagram about is kindness making us depressed. Can you just elaborate a bit on that? Because I found that quite interesting.
Okay, so kindness is for my empath crew. These are the people who give and get little in return. Highly empathic people, until they're kind of woke, don't know how to best protect themselves. And so they give, often unconsciously with an expectation. And so when that doesn't come back, which a lot of people are experiencing now, in relationships that are kind of one way, it can be very detrimental to them. You get angry, you feel disappointed, you feel resentment. And that's how your kindness, because you externalize that, becomes a problem. So I'm very much about helping empathic people. This is one of the kind of, evolvement of my work, which is like I focused on narcissism before. And then I focused on empaths. Because every narcissist needs a highly empathic person to be able to exercise their selfishness with. Selfish people need selfless people. So that's one of the things that I'm raising is about your kindness actually could be making you sad because of your expectations of reciprocity. Or sometimes, and I see it in myself, is I might up-level my kindness in the hope that I would get what I want back. And then that doesn't happen, and I get angry. But because I'm pretty self-aware, I'll know what I'm doing, or I'll shut down a thing because I think, well, this isn't a healthy dynamic for me. So that's about, highly empathic people need to learn how to protect themselves, not only from others, but from themselves. And that's how we end up doing it to ourselves. That bitterness that can seep in when you don't get the love back. And so without being aware, that's how it happens to people time and time again, that they just harm themselves. Kindness, and that's where people can take your kindness for weakness. And then if you've got poor boundaries, you kind of you usually tell yourself a convenient story to justify going back in and helping those people. So for me, one of the things I've done it through lockdown, I've been quite cutthroat about blocking people who are unhelpful to me. Because if I get caught in the historical dynamic of trying to convince them a good person and that I've got their back, I'm just focusing my attention on them. If they're not like if they don't get it, it's going to evoke my inferiority complex. It's historic. 2 ways about it. I have an inferiority complex. That's why I refuse to buy the barber. Because it tapped into my inferiority complex. So if my relationship with that said person taps into that, and I find myself going above and beyond to prove my worth to that person, lock it off.
Yeah.
I protect myself. Now my ego is going to be like, oh yeah, but you never know, if you just maybe, oh, it's not really nice, is it? Look, everyone's going through a hard time. You know what I'm saying? Be noise. Be noise.
Yeah.
But the reality is, this person, you know, when they call my phone, I get anxious. It's unsettling. I go to the house with great intention, and you just realise the conversation always ends up about them. You know, before I go, I'm like, oh, do you want me to bring anything? Oh yeah, bring a bottle of this. You think, oh, that's £30. I'm talking like a little space raiders. You know what I'm saying? Little tom-toms for 20 pence. Man want Havana. Later, are you thirsty? I'm damn thirsty. I'm gonna drink that with you too, bro. Cause I ain't leaving here with that on her. I'm drinking too.
Yeah.
So so I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, it's serious times, and the more I can get rid of that as a distraction, it means I've got more space for creation. My creation gives me a sense of feeling empowered in a disempowering situation, and that's where I go talk about surviving and thriving. That for me makes me feel good.
Yeah. Amazing.
Makes me feel good because it's like for my Pain into Purpose course, I've delivered that to 4 groups of 10 now. So that's 40 lives that maybe I would have never touched because they wouldn't have come to therapy.
Yeah.
So out of that, I feel like, but I also know that I feel discrimination towards people who don't get it together. And that's a shortcoming. I need to accept that not everybody's like me. You know, that for some people it will be too much and they will be just like down and out. And I need to, you know, truly respect that. And as a therapist, I do. But personally, because I'm always, you know, if I'm squashed, I'll always find a way to empower myself. I think I have to be really respectful of people who aren't always able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll always have, you know, so if I am, then how do I leverage those people who might not be, if they want it? If they come to me like, oh, Key, man, it's too much. Because that's another thing that's happening as well. People are coming who can't always necessarily afford therapy, but they are calling. So I'm like, okay, how can you reach? How can we do? What can I do for you? How can I assist? Maybe I can give you a free space on my course. It'll give you the answers. Like, you know, finding a way. So being respectful of my own personality type, but also know it's not everybody else's personality type. Not everybody else is going to be able to thrive in adversity. And, you know, if they're brave enough to ask, how can I support people with the kind of range of services that I have? It's a real blessing to be able to do that.
Thanks for touching that. Annette, do you have any questions? No? Okay, so Annette kept low key today.
You make notes.
I have my homie Annette with me here today on the podcast, but she decided not to talk, even though I mic'd her up. But she's taking plenty of notes.
Hold on. You don't have one question, sister?
I know
you
you
got
got
a
one.
lot of notes there.
She talks, you know. Don't ever be fooled. She talks.
One question, sister.
Turn the mic.
Disciplined.
Discipline for what?
We like unruly behaviour.
This Let's Do Humans podcast. Anything goes, man.
No, I was just listening. I would say though that the last thing you said really hit home about the empath, and that was really significant for me.
Yeah. Well, I think empaths are often in helping professions. So if you're a helping professional, you give out a lot, and you don't recognise you have needs. Yeah. So your cup is dry, and you're still giving. This is one of the ways that empaths burn out. I don't know, because I am one. So for empaths to say no, they feel guilty. So, you know, guilt is an emotion no one wants to feel. So you reject the guilt and you concede because you don't want to sit with guilt. You've got to learn to sit with guilt. And empaths aren't great at saying no to people. But firstly, you know, empaths are just not good at looking after themselves. Really not. They put themselves last. And so, you know, you probably work way more than the hours you get paid for, which I regard as volunteering when you work for a government agency. You know what I'm saying? Why am I going to volunteer for the Home Office? No, don't do it. You know, so you've got to learn to have your boundaries to be able to ensure that beautiful helping nature, the empathic nature, you don't abuse it. Because if you abuse it, you when you burn out, that's when bodies say no more. You know, so I'm really about helping empathic people to protect their gift. It's a true gift to have that. And that's one of the reasons we can get caught in that dynamic with the opposites of our kind. Unnecessarily difficult people. because we can always understand them, innit?
Yeah.
I read theories long and wide, didn't it? Be like, oh, well, you had a traumatic childhood, you get enough hugs.
Yeah.
That's why it's like that. It's not really like that. It's got good art. And you have to learn to stop telling yourself the stories, accept people as they are, not as we want them to be, and protect your greatness, protect your gift.
100%.
Boom, boom, bam.
And that's that. Keeley, what you got coming up for the people to know? What's some of the work that you're doing currently? What do you want to push out there and let the people know about?
My Pain into Purpose course.
Yeah.
At the moment, we got a deal. It's £99.
You got the link, so you're going to send me the link and I'll put it in the bio.
I'll send you the link all day.
I'll be posting out the link to that.
Yeah, beautiful. EAPs, you know, so if people are, you know, with employers and they are thinking about therapy, get in touch.
Oh, yeah, that was a great one that you mentioned earlier on as well in regards to like some employees paying for therapy. So people should really look into that.
Yeah, employee assistance programs. A part of employee assistance programs are also like debt lines with organizations as well. So if you've got any debt problems, you can use those services. Some of them also provide solicitors services as well. So there's a lot you can get from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I supervise people as well. So I supervise trainees who are training to become therapists, because I'm always about how can you, you know, like in our industry, we're told to constantly volunteer. So I'm also about helping people to build their vision for what they want that, you know, to look like. So you can find me at keyforchange.com. I help people in all manner of ways with all kind of, you know, different conundrums that just get the best of all of us. You know, I'm really about breaking down that stereotype of like, oh yeah, you're off key, or you're mad, go and see a therapist. Bruv, like, we all need someone to talk to. Let's have a chat.
Yeah.
That's all I do. Let's have a chat. Let's have a quick chat. Let's look at that. And just helping people to get clarity.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for coming on Let's Do Humans
Always.
podcast once again, Keeley. We definitely have you back on again. Oh, that was amazing, Keeley, once again.
Chat to you all day.
I know, definitely.
Ooh.